All right, my name is David Kelly. I will be speaking later, but at the moment I'm filling in for Stephen as moderator so that I can introduce Stephen as speaker. He's far too modest to sing his own praises, so I volunteered to do that, which I'm very happy to do. Stephen is a professor of philosophy at Rockford College. He's chairman of the department, and he is also director of the college's honors program in liberal arts. It's a great books program that teaches intellectual history of Western civilization. Stephen is a enormously talented philosopher who's covered a number of areas, from epistemology, the theory of knowledge, to logic. He's the co-author of a book of readings and logical analysis, to business ethics, where he has taught and served as a visiting fellow at several other institutions, and most recently in intellectual history, where in addition to teaching the subject, he has recently finished a book, a very important book, I think, when it comes out, called Explaining Postmodernism, Skepticism and Socialism from Rousseau to Foucault, sorry. Stumbled over the French. Stephen is going to be speaking about recent trends in art, recent meaning the last century. We philosophers think in centuries as our moments, particularly modernism and postmodernism. So please welcome Stephen Hicks.
Thank you, David. For a long time, critics of modern and postmodern art have relied on the "isn't this disgusting" strategy. By that, I mean the strategy of pointing out that given works in modern and postmodern art are ugly, trivial, in bad taste, a 5-year-old could have made that, and so on. And they've mostly left it at that. The points have, in many cases, been true, but they've also been tiresome and unconvincing. And the art world has been entirely unmoved by criticisms of that sort. Of course, the major works of 20th century art are ugly. Of course, they're offensive. Of course, a 5-year-old could, in many cases, have done the same thing. Those points are not arguable, but they're entirely beside the main question. Right? The important question is, why has the art world of the 20th century adopted the ugly and the offensive? Why has it poured its considerable creative energies and cleverness into the trivial and the self-proclaimedly meaningless? It's easy also to point out examples of psychologically disturbed or cynical individuals who learn to manipulate the system to get their 15 minutes or a nice big check from a foundation, the hangers-on who learn how to play the game in order to get invited to the right parties. But again, every field of human endeavor has its hangers-on, its cynical members, its disturbed members, and they're never the ones who drive the scene. The question is, why did cynicism and its variants come to be the game that you had to play in order to make it in the world of art? And that's my question today. My first theme is that modern and postmodern art was and is nested in a broader cultural framework that was generated at the end of the 19th century and solidified in the early 20th century. Modern and postmodern art took its cues from that framework. Despite occasional invocations of art for art's sake and attempts to withdraw art from life, art always has been significant, probing the same issues of the human condition that all forms of cultural life probe. Artists are thinking and feeling human beings, and they think and feel intensely about the same important things that all intelligent and passionate human beings do. Even when artists claim that their work has no significance, or it has no meaning, or it has no reference, those claims are always significant, referential, and meaningful. What counts, however, as a significant claim, cultural claim, depends on what's going on in the broader intellectual and cultural world. The art world is not hermetically sealed, it never has been. Its themes can have an internal developmental logic, but those themes are almost never generated from within the world of art itself. All right, by now the main lines of modern art are clear to us. The standard histories tell us that modern art died around 1970, its themes and strategies exhausted, and that we have about a quarter century of postmodernism behind us now. The big break with the past occurred toward the end of the 19th century, and if we contrast what happened then, we can say up until the 19th century, the end of the 19th century, art was a vehicle of sensuousness, meaning, and passion. Right? Its goals were beauty and originality. Right? The artist was a master of the skills of his craft, able to create original representations with human significance and universal appeal. Combining skill and vision, the artists were exalted beings who were capable of creating objects that, at their best, had an awesome power to exalt, in turn, the senses, the intellects, and the passions of those who experienced them. The break with tradition came when the first modernists of the 1880s set themselves systematically to the project of picking off all of the elements of art and eliminating them or flying in the face of them artistically. Now, the causes of the break were many. The increasing naturalism of the 19th century led, for those who had not shaken off their religious heritage, to a feeling of being alone and without guidance in a vast, empty universe. Philosophical theories of irrationalism and skepticism on the rise in the 19th century led many to distrust their cognitive faculties of perception and reason. The development of scientific theories of evolution and entropy brought with them pessimistic accounts of human nature and the destiny of the world. The spread of liberalism and free markets caused their opponents on the political left, many of whom were members of the artistic avant-garde, to see political developments as a series of deep disappointments. And the technological revolutions, spurred by a combination of science and capitalism in the 19th century, led many to project a future where the combination of science and capitalism and the machines that it created would produce machines that would in turn destroy their very makers, us. Now, by the turn of the 20th century, the 19th century intellectual world's sense of disquiet had become a full-blown anxiety. The artists responded, exploring in their works implications of a world in which reason, order, certainty, dignity, optimism, and beauty seemed to have disappeared. The new theme, which is my soundbite for the next half hour, or 20 minutes actually, is, as I see it, that art must be a quest for truth, right? However brutal, and not beauty. The question became, what is the truth, right, of art? Now, the first major claim of modernism was a content claim, right? A demand for the recognition of the truth that the world is not beautiful. Right? The world is fractured, horrifying, decaying, depressing, empty, and ultimately unintelligible. Now, that claim by itself is not a uniquely modernist claim. Right? There have been a number of artists in the past who have made that claim. What I think is uniquely modernist is the sheer number of artists who signed on to that particular claim. Some artists in the past had believed that, and here then is what I think is the really distinctive innovation of modernist art. Past artists had believed that the world was ugly and horrible, but they had used traditional realist forms, or realistic forms of perspective and color in order to say that. The innovation of modernists was to assert that form must match content. Art could not and should not use the traditional realistic forms of perspective and color because those forms presuppose an orderly, stable, knowable world, and that is the belief that has been lost. Now, in my judgment, Monk got there first. He hasn't quite arrived here yet. So let me try backing up. There we go. If the truth, right, is that reality is horrifying, a disintegrating swirl, then both the form and the content should express that feeling. Picasso, in a different form, got there second. I'm trying to resurrect ghosts. It's not happening. Hang on. There we go. If the truth is that reality is fractured and empty, then again, both form and content should express that. Dali goes a step further. If the truth is more cognitively that reality is unintelligible, then art can teach this lesson by using realistic forms, but against the idea that we can distinguish objective reality from irrational dreams. Now, the parallel development, the significant parallel development to these kinds of explorations in the world of art is reductionism. If we are experiencing a deep discomfort with the idea that art or any discipline can tell us anything about an external reality, then we will retreat from any sort of content about an external reality and focus on what we take to be art's uniqueness. Painting, for example, does not tell us the truth about reality. The truth about painting, for example, is that it's a two-dimensional surface with paint. So if we're going to find the truth about painting, we have to eliminate as much as we can possibly eliminate in order to see what is distinctively painterly, what survives here. Take, for example, a traditional claim that art is cognitively significant in that it tells us about reality. Right? Then the first thing that we should try to do is eliminate all content based on an alleged awareness of reality. Dali's work here does double duty. Dali challenges the idea that what we can call, or that what we call reality is anything more than some bizarre, subjective, psychological state. Picasso's piece also does double duty here. If the eyes, focus on the eyes here, and not so much the form, if the eyes are the window to the soul, right, then the soul here is frighteningly vacant. Or if we switch the focus the other way and say that our eyes are our access to the world, then these eyes are seeing nothing. So we eliminate from art a connection to external reality. What else can be eliminated is the next question. Now, since we are eliminating, I'm going to take a slightly different take than some art historians do. I'm going to argue that in the next series of iconic pieces from 20th century art, it's not what's on the canvas that matters. Right? It's what's not on the canvas that counts. Right? What is significant is absence. Right? Art then becomes an absence exploration discipline.